In general, we found that the Asian countries like China and Singapore performed better than the European countries like Spain, France, the UK, and Sweden. And the European countries performed slightly better than the Latin American countries. And we asked questions about the measures taken to protect the vulnerable, but also the population in general. We asked about access to COVID-19 tests, in which many countries, including Spain, scored quite low. We asked questions about the trust the population had in the measures being taken by their governments, and found that really the general population wants better communication. They need to understand the measures that are being taken. That's fundamental to making this response work.
Presumably it's important because the higher trust there is in how the government is handling the pandemic, the better the population will adhere to the measurements that the government lay out.
That's exactly right. That's what we found, that where there was trust in government, there was trust in the measures being taken by those governments. Where the communication was reported to be uneven or unclear or even confused, we then found that the population reported that they didn't think the government measures were going well or were being implemented well. They often didn't understand them. They didn't understand the importance of the lockdown, of wearing masks, of using disinfectants, et cetera, et cetera.
How can you be sure in this research that you haven't just managed to sort of do a survey in terms of how popular people find the government rather than how they've actually handled the pandemic?
This is always tricky. We did have a representative sample of the general population in each of the 19 countries. Of course, some of those countries like China and India are quite big, so there can be some bias. There will be some plus and minus, but across the board, the population scored countries low, which means that governments of all sorts, whether they're the national government, the regional government, or even the local government, need to do a better job of explaining the control measures. And it's not just the government, it's the health authorities, it's the police, it's anyone involved in attempting to control this pandemic.